Hey, welcome back to the course. So in this section, we are going to understand the pre-RTOS kernel coding style. So the key takeaways from this section are you will come to know what are the conventions used to write macros. Also, you will come to know the pre-RTOS convention used to pick variable names and also function names. All right. So we will go through the pre-RTOS kernel source code to understand the macros, the pre-RTOS variables and function names. All right, great. So let's get started with our first lecture, that is macros. Hey, welcome back to the tutorial. In this lecture, let me quickly talk about convention of macros used in pre-RTOS kernel source files. Let's begin. In pre-RTOS, macros are prefixed with the file in which they are defined. The prefix is lowercase. For example, consider this macro config use preemption. So here the first word is config, which is written in the small letters, isn't it? This word actually indicates in which file the macro is defined. So this indicates that this macro is defined in pre-RTOS config.h. So they have picked up this word and they have used it as a prefix for this macro. So when you see this macro in your source code, then you will immediately come to know that it is defined in pre-RTOS config.h by just looking at the prefix. So that's the advantage it gives, and that's the convention pre-RTOS guys follow while coding their kernel source files. Other than the prefix, macros are written in all uppercase and use an underscore to separate words. So let's explore this in the pre-RTOS kernel source. Here is the pre-RTOS config.h file. This file basically used to configure the pre-RTOS kernel as per application requirement. I'll be talking about all these header files in my later lectures. So at this point it is too early to discuss all these things. So just we'll see how the macros are defined in this header file. For example, you can see all these macros have prefix that is config. That indicates this macro belongs to pre-RTOS config.h. Similarly, there is one more header file, that is port macro.h. This is the header file which contains the macros related to architecture specific data. So for example, you know that pre-RTOS runs on many architectures or many microcontrollers. So each microcontroller will have one file to accumulate or to define all its architecture specific macros. So this file is one among that which belongs to Atmel SAM based devices. So I'll be talking about architecture specific source file and architecture specific header files in later lectures. So in this case, let's just look at the way macros are defined here. So the first word here is port. That means this macro is architecture specific macro. The first word, which is written in smaller case letters, designates the file name to which this macro belongs to. So whenever you see a macro which start with port, then you can immediately conclude that okay, this is architecture specific data and it should be defined in port macro.h or port.h. So that's the advantage it gives, and that's the convention used in pre-RTOS. That is, every macro will be prefixed with the file name where it belongs to. See you later.